So then retriability. So now let's talk about what happens when Salesforce is down, right? So there's a number of reasons something might go down, but one of them might be something like a network blip. There's just a temporary outage that is preventing Salesforce from connecting to the queue that we have messages flowing over. Well, with the pub sub model, with this message model, there's a pattern called retry queuing. And the idea is that if a message fails, you have these machinery, these mechanisms in place that it's going to retry it a few times. So there's a lot of details that I won't get into the total nitty gritty about that, but it's basically this idea that, Salesforce, it tries to process a message and something's wrong. Well, it says, hold on, I'm going to give that back to you. Let me try again in a little bit. And the idea is that if there is some sort of intermediate problem, that we can, we can still process in near real time. So we're still going to eventually get those messages. And in the scenario of kind of this intermittent issue that will be fixed relatively quickly, you can still process on a relatively quick timeline. And then, yeah, go ahead, Paul.
What happens if you don't have a queue in here? Sorry if I'm jumping the.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's a great question. Thank you. So if you think about like the point-to-point situation, your error scenarios become much more complex. So for example, if you naively have that point-to-point integration where you're going, hey, payment platform processes payment. Hey, CRM, take this new invoice. And then you say, hey, order fulfillment, fulfill this order. Well, if your CRM is down, you might not be able to get the chance to call out to your order fulfillment. So without this decoupled asynchronous messaging in between there, and specifically with this published subscriber model, anything that goes down in your system is going to bring down your whole system. And you don't, and especially in an e-commerce site, it's very important to continue to process customer orders. You can get the analytics eventually. Thank you. And a great point. And speaking of that, it actually leads really well into what I'm going to talk about now, is that we also have durable storage for these error scenarios. So let's say either we do a deployment and we introduce a bug into our code, or maybe our database goes down and it's down for 6 hours or something like that. So we have the ability to retry, but that's really in a shorter window. That's over like a 1 to 2 minute period. But what do we do with those messages for those 6 hours? So the great thing about this is that those messages don't go away. So there's a pattern called the dead letter queue, where if your consumer is processing the messages, but it's unable to do it successfully, those will eventually end up on a dead letter queue. And that's just another queuing mechanism where basically if the consumer says, I can't process this right now, store this for later. And then the idea, and so if you think about our CRM scenario, we still want to know the invoice or the marketing data, the orders that were created, so we can look at how our marketing campaigns went. Well, the idea is that if it does go down, eventually when it comes back up, those messages are still there and it can continue to process those. So that's what we sometimes refer to as guaranteed eventual delivery. So we are saying that you may not get it processed immediately, but we will eventually get that message processed.